War has always been about economics. For centuries, the side with the bigger budget, the heavier tanks, and the more expensive missiles won. But in the skies over Ukraine, a new equation has emerged. An equation that defies every military textbook written in the last 100 years. On one side, a Russian Shahed 136 drone cost $35,000. On the other side, a Ukrainian Interceptor cost $2,000. For years, the world watched in horror as Russia launched waves of cheap drones at Ukrainian cities. Ukraine's response? Fire million-dollar Patriot missiles. It was a trap, a mathematical suicide pact. Russia knew that if they kept sending cheap plastic and plywood, Ukraine would eventually run out of money. They would go bankrupt trying to shoot down garbage. But then, something changed. By April 2026, the trap didn't just spring shut on Ukraine, it snapped back on Russia. Today, we are going to tell the story of how a group of volunteer engineers working under single light bulbs in garages built an air defense system that costs almost nothing, but stops everything. We will explore the Sting, the Strela, and the AI-driven Octopus. We will look at the secret mission control network that sees everything. And we will answer the question that keeps Kremlin generals awake at night. How did $2,000 defeat the might of the Russian military-industrial complex? This is not just a story about drones. This is not just a story about drones. This is the story of how warfare changed forever. To understand the revolution of 2026, we must first understand the despair of 2023. At that time, Ukraine's air defense was stretched to its breaking point. Every night, the sky filled with the ominous buzz of Iranian-designed Shahed drones. These were not high-tech weapons. They were essentially flying lawnmowers with explosives strapped to them. But they were effective because they were numerous. The economic asymmetry was brutal. A single Patriot Interceptor cost between $3 million and $4 million. A Shahed cost roughly $35,000 to produce. Even using cheaper systems like the Iris-T or NASAMS, the cost ratio was unsustainable. Military analysts predicted that within 6 months, Ukraine's stockpiles would be empty. Russia wasn't trying to hit specific targets. They were trying to bleed Ukraine dry. But while the government struggled with bureaucracy and supply chains, a different war was being fought in the shadow. In small apartments, basements, and garages across Kyiv, Lviv, and Dnipro, a decentralized movement began. Leading this charge was a volunteer engineer known only by the code name Phoenix. Phoenix wasn't a general. He wasn't even a soldier initially. He was a software developer who loved radio-controlled hobbies. He looked at the sky and saw a problem that couldn't be solved by buying more American missiles. The solution had to be homegrown, it had to be cheap, and it had to be scalable. The old rules said you need a radar-guided missile to stop a drone, Phoenix later recalled in a rare interview. We said no. You just need another drone. A drone that is faster, smarter, and cheaper than the enemy's. This was the birth of the Interceptor concept. Instead of shooting the enemy drone down with an explosion from miles away, why not fly into it? Why not ram it, or drop a net? Or use a small explosive charge at close range? The early days were filled with failure. Batteries died too fast. Signals were jammed. The drones were too slow. But by late 2024, the first successful intercepts, not by the military, but by volunteers. These weren't official victories recorded in Pentagon reports. They were quiet kills, witnessed only by those on the ground. But the message was clear. The sky was no longer exclusively Russia's domain. By 2025, the volunteer prototypes had evolved into standardized weapons. The most famous of these is the Sting Interceptor. Let's break down exactly what makes this machine a nightmare for Russian pilots. The Sting is small, bullet-shaped. It weighs less than 5 kilograms. It costs approximately $2,100 to build. But don't let the price tag fool you. This is a precision instrument. Speed is life. The Sting can reach speeds of over 213 miles per hour, 340 kilometers per hour. This is crucial because the Shahed drones it hunts typically fly at around 115 miles per hour. The Sting doesn't just catch them, it overtakes them. It can approach from behind, from above, or from below. But speed means nothing if you can't see. The Sting is equipped with high-resolution thermal cameras. This allows it to operate in total darkness, through fog, and even through light cloud cover. To the Sting's eye, a Russian drone is a bright beacon of heat from its engine. However, the real genius of the Sting lies in its brain. Russia's primary defense against drones is electronic warfare. EW. They blanket the battlefield with GPS jamming and radio interference. Standard commercial drones lose signal and crash instantly when they hit these jamming zones. The Sting uses a proprietary frequency-hopping spread spectrum technology. Developed by Ukrainian IT specialists, this system changes its communication channel thousands of times per second. If Russia jams one frequency, the Sting instantly jumps to another. It's like trying to catch a ghost with a net. By the time the jammer adjusts, the Sting has already moved on. In December 2025, the Sting proved its worth against a new threat, the Geran 3. This was a Russian upgrade. A jet-powered drone fly too fast for propeller drones to catch. Military experts said it was impossible to intercept with cheap UAVs. They were wrong. A squadron of Stings, coordinated by ground teams, intercepted a Geran 3 over the Black Sea. The Sting didn't just hit it, it hunted it. This event marked a turning point. Suddenly, 70% of all jet-powered drone kills were attributed to these $2,000 machines. Today, Ukraine produces 10,000 Stings every month. 10,000. That is more drones in a month than some countries have in their entire inventory. This scale is what makes the system unbreakable. If Russia shoots down 10 Stings, Ukraine launches 20 more. It is a war of attrition that Russia cannot win. A drone is only as good as the information it receives. A lone Sting in the sky is blind, but a Sting connected to the Mission Control Network is omniscient. This is the second pillar of the revolution, the Interceptor Drone Ecosystem. Mission Control is not a single building. It is a decentralized, cloud-based network. It aggregates data from 3 sources: traditional military radars, acoustic sensors, microphones placed on rooftops across cities that listen for the specific engine signature of a Shahed, civilian reports via a specialized app. When a Russian drone crosses the border, Mission Control knows within. It calculates the trajectory, speed, and likely target. But here is the key difference from traditional air defense. It doesn't send this data to a distant battery. It sends it to the nearest drone team. These teams are mobile. They operate out of vans, pickup trucks, or even basements. They receive the coordinates on a tablet. Within minutes, they launch their Stings. The drone doesn't need to search for the target. It flies directly to the interception point provided by Mission Control. Once it gets close, its onboard thermal camera takes over for the final kill. This reduces the reaction time from 20 minutes to under 5 minutes. It turns the entire country into a layered defense grid. Before mission control, we were guessing. We would patrol areas hoping to see something. Now? The system tells us exactly where to go. We are just the executioners. The brain is in the cloud. We sleep, we eat, we launch. It is efficient, it is cold, and it works. By early 2026, this network achieved something unprecedented, 95% interception rate in certain regions. In March 2026 alone, these teams destroyed 2,300 Russian aerial targets. That is nearly 80 targets a day. And the cost? A fraction of what Russia spent to launch them. While the Sting is the workhorse, it is not the only player in this ecosystem. Ukraine has developed a specialized family of interceptors, each designed for a specific role. First, the Strela, meaning arrow. The Strela is built for speed and altitude. It can reach 400 kilometers per hour. Its job is to catch threats before they even enter populated areas. It's at higher altitudes than the Sting, acting as the first line of defense. If a Russian missile or drone is detected far from the border, the Strela is launched to meet it in the no-man's land of the sky. Next, the Octopus. The Octopus is the future. Developed jointly by Ukrainian and British engineers, the Octopus is fully autonomous. It contains an onboard AI processor. This means it does not need a pilot. It does not need a constant radio link. You give the Octopus a sector to patrol. It flies there. It uses computer vision to identify enemy aircraft. If it sees a match, it attacks. If the radio signal is completely jammed, the Octopus doesn't crash. It continues its mission. This is the ultimate counter to electronic warfare. Russia can jam the sky, but they cannot jam the Octopus's mind. Production of the Octopus is ramping up to 5,000 units a month. Imagine 5,000 AI-driven hunters patrolling the sky every single month, immune to jamming, hunting, autonomy. Then there is the Rewrote. This is a VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing hybrid. It takes off like a helicopter, requiring no runway, no catapult, no open field. It can launch from a backyard, a rooftop, or a forest clearing. Once airborne, it transitions to fixed-wing flight for efficiency. This makes it perfect for urban defense, where space is limited. And finally, the sword in the shield, the bullet. The bullet is not just for defense. It is a long-range, loitering munition. While the Stings protect Ukrainian cities, the bullets fly deep into Russian territory. Their targets? The radar stations that guide Russian missiles, the fuel depots that feed the Shaheds, the launch trucks themselves. Ukraine is no longer just passively defending. They are using the same cheap, scalable technology to degrade Russia's ability to attack. For every $2,000 Sting that saves a city, a $2,000 bullet destroys a $500,000 radar system. The economic war is being fought on both sides of the border. So where does this leave Russia? Military analysts inside the Kremlin are facing a crisis. Their traditional doctrine relies on mass and firepower, but mass is useless if every unit you send is destroyed by a weapon that costs 1/15 of your own. Russian generals have admitted in private channels that they have no effective answer to the Interceptor ecosystem. They tried increasing the number of drones. Ukraine just made more Stings. They tried improving jamming. Ukraine introduced the Octopus AI. They tried flying higher and faster. Ukraine introduced the Strela. It is a losing battle of economics. Russia spends billions trying to overwhelm a system that costs millions to maintain. Every time Russia invents a new tactic, Ukrainian engineers in their garages reverse engineer a counter within weeks. The feedback loop in Ukraine is incredibly fast. In Russia, it takes years to approve a new weapon design. In Ukraine, it takes days. But the impact goes far beyond Ukraine. The world's biggest militaries are watching in awe and fear. The United States, China, Israel, and India are all scrambling to replicate the Ukrainian model. The era of the $100 million fighter jet dominating the sky is ending. The future belongs to swarms. The future belongs to AI. The future belongs to the cheap, the disposable, and the smart. NATO is already redesigning its air defense doctrines. The Patriot missile is no longer the sole solution. It is now just one layer in a pyramid that sits atop thousands of cheap interceptors. The lesson is clear. Quantity has a quality all its own, but only if that quantity is intelligent. We are witnessing the democratization of air power. You no longer need a superpowers budget to control the sky. You need ingenuity. You need software. You need a network. Ukraine has proven that a small nation under siege can innovate its way to survival. The war in Ukraine is far from over, but the sky above it has changed. The terror of the nightly drone raids has diminished, not because the attack stopped, but because the defense became perfect. The $2,000 drone revolution teaches us a profound lesson about human resilience. When faced with an overwhelming force, you do not always need to build a bigger wall. Sometimes you just need to build a smarter net. From the garages of Kyiv to the battlefields of the future, the legacy of these engineers will endure. They showed us that in the modern age, the most powerful weapon is not the one that costs the most. It is the one that thinks the fastest. Thank you for watching. If you found this deep dive insightful, please like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments. Do you think traditional militaries can adapt to this new era of drone warfare, or is the age of the expensive tank and jet